Good afternoon, Wrestling Inc. Get up, get going. Welcome back to the Wrestling Inc. Daily. It's me, your managing editor of WrestlingInc.com. Joined here as I am every Monday to get our pro wrestling punditry week going right. It's Michael Wiseman. Michael, welcome back to the Wrestling Inc. Daily.
Thanks, Nick. Thanks for welcoming me back. I'm happy to be here.
How do you feel about Roman Reigns calling Paul Heyman the Wiseman now? Are you okay with it?
I think it's just a good name. Like, you know what? That gives a good name to all the Wisemen out there, right? He's one of the Wisemen. I'm a Wiseman. If I'm in the same vein as Paul Heyman, or he is actually in my vein now, I guess, because I was a Wiseman first, it's just good for all of us wise people.
Oh, man, I got some Paul Heyman in my veins. That's for sure, right? Oh, carny blood. Okay, well, we got a great show to get your week going off right here today. We're going to talk the news in a little bit. We're going to dive in the mailbag later. We're going to talk about male baby faces in the world of pro wrestling. I thought this was a really interesting debate. I'm excited to dive into the mailbag today. But before we get to any of that, a couple things. First of all, absolutely want to send our best to the friends, family of Judy Bagwell, the mother of Buff Bagwell. You may have seen her on WCW television starting in 2000. At one point, they put her up on a pole. She was 78 years old and, obviously loved her son quite a bit and was willing to get involved with this crazy carny pro wrestling world. So fond memories of Judy and just want to start off by sending our best out to her, Michael.
Yeah, it's always, don't want to overlook the loss here, and definitely thoughts and prayers go out to all those affected by this. But it is not very often that you have a pro wrestling mother get involved in the storyline, and especially in that dynamic. And so it just, to your point, Nick, it just preaches how involved she was in her son's career. And then it's one of the more infamous, like, gimmick matches from the Russo era that I always remember and kind of joke about, the Judy Bagwell on a pole match. So, but yeah, just sad for the loss of life there, and hope that the family's doing okay.
Absolutely. And in some good news from the world of professional wrestling, congratulations to Vic Joseph and Mackenzie Mitchell from NXT. They are now engaged. What a beautiful couple, by the way. They look really good together, Mike.
You would almost say they look like the kind of couple that WWE wants to put on TV every week to draw in those exact kinds of fans, huh?
They're developmentally good looking, okay? They're not like... Someday they'll be WWE levels of good looking and they'll leave NXT. But right now, they're just like, we're developing them into attractive. They're attractive, but they can be more attractive. This is WWE. That's the model, right?
Oh, okay. And then so when they become super attractive, then they get moved on to AEW, or how does that work?
Move to Raw or SmackDown, and then they'll move to Raw and SmackDown for like 18 months. There'll be a lot of questions about their booking, and then they'll go to AEW. That's the system right now. So,
will they get split up as part of that? One of them.
There'll be a period where they're split up, and then they're gonna get put together, and then she's gonna have like a lesbian affair, and then he's gonna be forced to dress like Santa Claus for some Christmas special, and everyone's gonna go, "Why would you make Vic Joseph the Santa Claus?" And so, anyway.
Right. There you go.
All right, so we got a lot to get to here. I guess what I'm saying, news. We're gonna get the news here a little bit. We're gonna talk the mailbag. Also, I forgot to mention, we're gonna have little bits of audio. Our good friend contributor for the site, Ethan Kramer, was at MLW War Chamber on Saturday night in Philly. Got to get a cut, literally just a few minutes. He's like 2-minute interviews. So we're gonna put a back-to-back. First one with Jacob Patu. The second one with EJ and Duca. Both friends of the show. Both great gets, so very happy to have them here today. And, of course, the chat room is open. If you want to join the show, like Sherrod, good afternoon, everybody. Samantha, she just wrote good. Antonio Garcia, hello, everyone. Supersonic X, hello, Nick and Michael. Hello, Supersonic X. And if you want to be part of the conversation or say something nice or whatever, you could be like Dave here, who said, rest in peace, Judy Bagwell, as did Chaz Shaw. So, you can engage us. We'll throw your comments up on the screen. And, of course, I need to be saying this at the top of the show more regularly. I know we get a lot of listeners, right? We get a lot of engagement. Our Twitch numbers, baby. I didn't know how good we were doing on Twitch till recently. I love you all. Thank you, Twitch people, for tuning into the show. But iTunes reviews. If we want to get this week going right, this is the day to do it. Go put your little coin in the machine. Leave an iTunes review. Hypothetical coin. It's free to do, but, buy the ticket.
It's said like the hand crank where you put the penny in, you mash it in, it comes out with a design. It's the Wrestling Inc. Daily logo. Is that the kind of machine you're talking about, Nick?
I mean, I think that's exactly what I'm talking about, Michael. I think it's a little something for you to throw in your pocket as good luck, So
this is like the sundown service now, right? Like, I mean, it's 5:00 here on the East Coast, or 5:07 now. My sun is going down as we record this show. We're going to be into the evening hours, which you know what that means, don't you, Nick?
Okay, well, I guess let's get sexy because it's time for news you can use, news that leave a bruise. You know, we're going to start off talking about AEW stuff. We're going to talk about some new AEW Full Gear matches, but this isn't really news. We're not a review show, but I really was looking forward to starting this show off today as of Friday, talking about CM Punk, Eddie Kingston, the exchange they had on Rampage. I'm not going to go back and reread their promos or give some kind of in-depth description, but man, these guys just went out there. They knew how to feel each other out. They knew how to put together a great segment. The pull apart was well done. I mean, this was honestly the best 12 minutes of AEW TV. Like, I mean, from a segment, not like, yeah, CM Punk returning, that's a big moment, right? Like, there have been some great matches in AEW history. But from a segment perspective, like a 12-minute bit of just story, this has got to be the best thing AEW's ever done, Michael.
It feels like they are responding a little bit, right? Because this is two veterans, and let's give Eddie Kingston, even though he's not always the biggest platform in the world, his dues. Eddie Kingston, a veteran. CM Punk, obviously, traveled around the world, veteran. And we've heard this narrative for the last couple of weeks, right? AEW's been losing some momentum. What is their main thorough line besides Cowboy kind of doing his thing? What else are they doing with this pay-per-view? And it felt like CM Punk, we had the big debut. Eric Bischoff is calling out Tony Khan. Oh, they're not doing enough with CM Punk. And Tony Khan's like, taking our time. And they come out and deliver this big moment on what they still consider a very big show in Rampage and kind of this must-see segment. So I think, not that they were responding to all of that, but it was what they needed to get fans bought back in. The buzz around it, I think, is big. Very impactful 12 minutes. And we have a second huge match. There are other matches on the card for Full Gear, don't get me wrong, but it was like, what's that? If this is the main event, right? If Omega, if Cowboy, that's the main event, Hangman Page, right? What is the second biggest match on this card? And that promo tells me what it is, right?
And this is the only match I care about now, honestly, right? Like, you know, here's the thing about what was so good about it. It was so easy to get lost in it, right? Sure. You didn't really know how much of it these guys had really put together. I'm going to guess it was real kind of nuts and bolts. Like, hey, I'm going to talk about how we never had respect for you. And Eddie's going to be like, all right, I'm going to talk about how entitled you are and how looked over you go. I want to know if the intention was always to build to a pull apart, or did they just naturally hit that point where Tony was like, let's go for it? Because I've been it, and look, it's different on TV, I know, but I've done indie shows and stuff where those things happen. You call a fly in the back, you know, call an audible in the back. Hey, let's turn this thing to a pull apart. If you've done a million shows like these two guys have done, they know how to get it to right where it needs to be. You know, I want to know, how much of it, like, obviously, you know, Punk knew or what was going to be said. I think what's interesting here is, unlike Darby Allin, Daniel Garcia, Powerhouse Hobbs, these other names that Punk have worked with up till now, I feel genuinely that Punk would have liked for one of them to step up to him like this, to create some tension, you know. But I think there's a respect thing there. There's a fear thing there. And doing that, you had a guy in Eddie Kingston out here right now where it was like, hey, you're going to give me a live mic. You want me to go out there and make this thing interesting? I have nothing to lose. And went out there and really just put it all on the line in a way that you're not going to get some, you know, young new talent that's like in awe of the god CM Punk. It was just incredible to watch, Michael. I loved it. It was
yeah. Then I think that's some of that veteran presence, right? Eddie Kingston brings that out. He has that confidence, that swagger. He's been established on the AEW card. I love that their first match with Punk was Darby Allin. I think that was great. And I understand Tony Khan. Listen, the main event picture is pretty crowded, and you're going with Hangman Page, right? You got to do some cowboy shit right now because he's hot. But I kind of agree with Bischoff that Punk is the biggest name on your show. Daniel Bryan now maybe is right there. But he's felt like he's lost a little bit of that momentum that we had, that specialty. And so this feels like a big match, and it's that personal nature. It is that unpredictability that both of these men bring to the table that nobody else can, right?
Yeah. And I, at the same time, like, did we see Punk turn heel in this promo? Like, it kind of felt like that a little bit to me, right? You know, where he was talking about how they look down on him, and like, Eddie's super sympathetic. I see Chaz here saying, I'm rooting for Kingston on this one, to be honest. You know, it felt to me like Punk was definitely edging that way. And if Eddie beats him or Punk has to cheat to win, and the next night or that Wednesday night on Dynamite, you're going to get the heel Punk promo and really ratchet this thing up. Why not?
But you know what? I don't think it's quite. I mean, I think you're right. I think we're seeing a different layer to Punk right now. He came back and we had the Feel Good tour, right? And we had that for a few weeks and he's wrestling some younger talent and like, okay, that's all good and makes me feel warm and fuzzy. But this did feel like that edgier Punk that we got even during his face run in WWE. But that's what's beautiful about both of these men, right? Two beautiful men, but their ability to kind of even Eddie Kingston here. He can be sharper around the edges and still be a guy the fans like. Punk is that exact same way. John Moxley, that exact same way. He doesn't have to be like goody two-shoes. And I'm glad that Punk brought that edge. I don't know if it makes him a heel outright, but it is definitely an edgier Punk than we have seen in AEW up to this point. And I think it gets the fans involved. Who do I side with here? We have fans in the chat room. Eddie Kingston. He's their AEW guy. Fans like me, man, I love Punk. I want to see Punk kind of go over here, right? But either way, you're building that intrigue and we're going to be talking about this come the results come next weekend, right?
One of the best pro wrestling segments easily, maybe of the year. I mean, I have a soft spot for what we saw. I just was so lost into it. So just really well done. Also, we found out Jurassic Express, along with Christian Cage, they issued a Falls Count Anywhere contest to the Super Click, Young Bucks and Adam Cole at Full Gear. That is going to be happening now. And this came, of course, after Cage's horrendous concerto to Cole earlier this week. So, not a lot of not a lot of story, kind of the way we got Eddie and Punk, but I see Falls Count Anywhere. I see everybody involved. I think like Memphis, I think we're just going to see brawling in the stands. It's going to be a big, wild, chaotic mess, and it'll be fine for what it is. I think it'll be fun.
It'll be a fun match, and you have some veteran presence there with Christian Cage. I think the Young Bucks and Adam Cole. I think just seeing Adam Cole in this element is going to be a part of the fun of this because, listen, like we're so jazzed to see him in AEW. He's part of all this. How is he going to show up moving forward, and what does this mean for their storytelling? I don't know if there's anything. It'll be a fun match, but it doesn't have that same weight to it that we are seeing with some of the other matches or the same importance. But Jurassic Express. Everybody loves Jurassic Express, right?
It'll be fun, right? And like that's the thing is like Daniel Bryan is going to be taking on Miro, right? And it would seem he'll likely beat Miro, setting up whatever his title program is. Adam Cole, I like that Adam Cole's just kind of here and having fun, right? He's with his buddies. It's not I kind of feel like his story. It feels like he's been there longer with how quickly he's assimilated into the top. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, they immediately picked up with being the elite background. They immediately picked up with the history of all these men, which is the smart way to do it. We don't need to reinvent somebody and give them a damn Viking gladiator outfit on the main roster just to try to get them over. And so I think that gives them a little bit, but I am interested, right? This is still part of in my opinion, the Adam Cole introductory tour. We're getting fans reacclimated to what he means as part of this group. What are you going to do next with him? And I think this pay-per-view was kind of him not biding time. He'll deliver a great performance, but until he gets a great singles match, we're getting some of this. I'm still waiting for him to see. I want that great feud in AEW to really cement him in this company.
Well, we have two AEW items, right? But the second to last one here, the Observer saying this is more of a follow-up to Chris Jericho's response to Samurai Del Sol over how Samurai spelled the name John Huber with an H. This apparently... this tweet caused Amanda to be very, very upset. Amanda Hubert, John's wife. Now, apparently a lot of other people were bothered by it too. Amanda was mad because Samurai wasn't a friend of her husband and was name dropping him. She also noted they hadn't heard a word from Samurai during the last few years. It was brought up that Miro had misspelled Brody in the past, but Amanda listed off reasons why that wasn't an issue. Brody, that's the stage name with an IE or a Y. That's not his real name. Who cares? Miro spoke to Amanda almost daily when Brody was sick and had cried with her in the past. And also Miro checked on her and her kids continuously. Story, non-story to you? What's going on with this, Michael?
I feel like it's a little bit of a non-story. It's getting blown up. I'm not going to say that he wasn't name dropping, but like also autocorrect changes John to John with an H, right? Also, we all have people in our lives that are important to us at one point. Go watch BoJack Horseman, y'all, right? People come into our lives. They're important to us for a few years. We move on. That doesn't mean that we're still not tragic and sad and when we lose them a few years later. So I don't want to pile on here because I understand it's a very sensitive subject. And I also understand she is the one who lost somebody here. And I want to be respectful of that. But I feel like also on the other hand, I'm not going to say that Del Sol was intentionally doing anything malicious or just name dropping. I think the truth is somewhere in between.
I don't think so either, right? But I had a really good friend that's experienced in the business reach out to me randomly on Saturday after I'd been having a couple cocktails. By the way, it caught me completely off guard. They were just like very bluntly, Samurai has real heat, and this is somebody who never just texts me out of the blue to just like tell me stuff. But they were like, dude, you should just know that whatever, I don't know exactly what it is, but this dude has like real heat. There's like more to this. I don't know if they were prodding me to go look into it more or not. But yeah, I mean, whatever it is, this dude is like, there seems to be some heat on him in the bag.
I don't know. It's weird to me now because like when he first passed away, everybody in the pro wrestling community had a John Hubert story to share, right? Like it wasn't just like everybody had something. And to me at that moment, I don't know. It just again, I understand she's the widow here, and I don't want to like make it seem like she doesn't have some right to that because it is her life and her story.
Sure.
It just feels like maybe there's something deeper here, maybe going on that we're just not aware of. Maybe.
Well, again, I'll look into it, and I'm very sorry to the people who are like, we should move on from this. I don't see the exact. Yeah, here we go. DX Vex. We still going on with this? It's an honest mistake. Yeah, I think it's time to put this one to bed till we find out more about what's going on with Samurai here backstage. So Pro Wrestling Torch caught up with Tony Khan. Did an interview where Tony had multiple quotes that got picked up. But the thing that lit up our headlines here this morning was Tony confirming that the AEW roster does not need to be vaccinated. Now, this is in response to the report recently, obviously, where some WWE talent appears to have been released because they did not decide they wanted to get vaccinated. Now, Tony said he is vaccinated, but he also kind of put the heat on the NFL. Like, I have to do it for clearance. The NFL's so tight. Oh, that's crazy. I have to be vaccinated for that thing. And he also talked about how, like, having some members of the roster unvaccinated is going to make it harder for them when they have to go overseas or when they go to California where vaccination laws are a lot tighter, right? There was a lot. Oh, he also, the last thing he mentioned in this was that an example of people requiring vaccination are everybody, and I think it was intentionally said this, everybody who did the Jericho cruise had to be vaccinated. That was part of it, right? So if you saw somebody on the vaccine, if you saw somebody performed on the cruise, just go ahead and mark them off the list. And I know there's a lot of people out there that have a lot of assumptions about Chris Jericho, but I think what Tony's nicely saying here is Chris is vaccinated or appears to have been vaccinated. We should hope. What do you think about Tony not requiring AEW wrestlers to be vaccinated?
Well, it's not even just that he didn't require it, but it's the comments he made after it about the reasons he is. It almost feels like this company came out as like the social justice company when they first debuted. And not to be political here, but the vax versus unvax, it kind of points you leaning, the arguments there kind of lean a little bit more politically than I think most of us would care for them to, right? Sure, and so it's weird to hear him kind of being like, almost the way I read it, tell me if you think I'm wrong here, Nick, is that he's kind of downplaying not vaccinations, but like the need to vaccinate or mandate vaccines as a company a little bit. That's the way I read that.
It definitely felt to me like he was putting distance between himself and that particular issue so as to not potentially rile people over this in the locker room. And look, it's his company. He can do whatever he wants. It's not by law that you have to require your people to get vaccinated. But like it's very ironic to me that he's like, oh, the NFL, this Premier Football League. Yeah, they require it, but that's it's like, dude, you're like the CFL of
right.
You're
the anti-big business here. You're like, I don't know, but it like again, it feels like he's kind of maybe on the wrong side of history a little bit here. Don't read it too much in that. I think what is most interesting though is we're having these comments on the back end of what happened with the releases last week, and I'm sure listen, there were other reasons. Vaccinations were kind of used for some of those. Whatever, right? But it does feel like for a hot minute, WWE is pro-vaccine. AEW doesn't care as much, which is a different narrative than we had maybe early in the pandemic when AEW was like, look at all these protocols, and WWE felt a little more fast and loose. So it's a weird world.
Well, talking about the WWE releases, let's switch gears here a little bit. Fightful saying several people backstage at WWE tried to plead about the direction of Karrion Kross's booking and character. There are even plans to adjust his character again. But most within the company reportedly pointed to the booking as the issue, not the characters. WWE had looked at Scarlett as a wrestler for Raw or SmackDown, but she was quickly, quote, sidelined, according to the report. Now, there were several that pushed for Scarlett to be with Cross on the main roster. I would imagine over time, we're going to get some clarity over what's going on with Scarlett and why she was sidelined. I really want to encourage people to not jump to any kind of specific reason that you think she could be sidelined. I know it's very easy in this period to think about the COVID stuff. I've heard different things. I'm not entirely positive that is maybe the case here with Scarlett. I don't really want to comment because I don't really know, but I just want to say I don't believe that's a given here. Any thoughts on this report here about Cross and Scarlett for WWE, Michael?
Nothing that hasn't already been kind of addressed in the conversation here. WWE, Vince McMahon has a certain vision, and they see wrestlers as kind of being pluggable and relatable. The objective of a giant business and a Wall Street corporation is to make as much money with as little cost as possible and deliver as much value back to shareholders. I think for whatever reason, Vince didn't see her and the leadership there didn't see her as being marketable, and that's where she fell off of Killer Cross, and they just wanted to go a different direction.
I don't know that that's entirely true. Like, I think that's a good reading of the tea leaves, right? But I don't know. Well, we could talk more off air, but I think there's more to this.
This company is weird, right? I don't know about this specific instance, but in general, it feels like what they're moving towards is can we develop our own people? And they're going to demand less of us because they're in our system for longer than if we bring in somebody from the outside of the indies who demands a bigger paycheck and wants more creative control. If you're in the system from day 1 to day 35 to day 300, you're going to be in that system. That's the only thing you know. You don't know an outside world. So I feel like that's the model overall they're working towards, whether or not it's specific to Karrion Kross or Scarlett. I don't know.
Well, Cryomancer Maurice says the word stupid comes in mind when they did with Karrion Kross and Scarlett. We also have Samantha saying, I think WWE just screwed up with Konos and Scarlett. I think she meant Cross. But you know what? Hey, that's the thing. Misspellings happen. Autocorrect happens. We're not going to berate you about it, okay? So also in the news of WWE releases, the Wrestling Observer saying around 10 other names were in strong discussion of being cut by WWE. These were talents that were not being used well, and they were seen as on the bubble of possibly getting cut. These names are veteran NXT talent in their 30s that have not been seen on TV often as of late. Those names include Danny Burch and Timothy Thatcher. And again, the drum beat rolls on. If you're older than 30 and you're a dude, you're on the chopping block. If you're over 25 and you're a woman, you're also on the chopping block.
It is a weird world. I mean, I don't know that these 10 people include this, right? Because there's lots of rumors going on elsewhere. But like, you got to imagine Johnny Gargano fits into that criteria, right? And we look at the lack of success of a lot of wrestlers they've moved up. Bobby Fish jumps across here and goes to AEW, has immediately some big matches. I don't know.
I think it's guys in their 30s that haven't been seen on TV in a while. Like, where's Thatcher, right? Like, where did Thatcher even go? Like, Danny Burch, right? You know, I don't know exactly. I would think Gargano and Ciampa are safe. I would think, but you never know, right?
Ciampa, I think so. And then they've been using him really appropriately on NXT 2.0, which is not something I thought I would say, but Ciampa's the guy that you're like, okay, I see Braun Breaker. I see how they're building the story.
Well,
but
Ciampa works because Ciampa was what was working in NXT, right? Like, and then you try to take this like dark, brooding, gritty, very, very reminiscent of the Eddie Kingston CM Punk vibe that we really liked, that we started this news block off right with, and you pair him with Sesame Street. Like, what is good? Like Psycho Sesame Street in some cases, like with Joe Gacy, you know?
That's true. Yeah, well, we could spend a whole podcast talking about Gacy. Yeah, it's a very, honestly, here's what I would say. I'm not going to like praise NXT 2.0 up and down and say it's doing all this great stuff, because I don't think it is, but they've focused on a certain type of basics with NXT 2.0 and what they want to do with their characters from a vignette standpoint, from a we're going to pair certain wrestlers and teams together standpoint, that when you look at the entire WWE system now, it starts making a lot more sense why Vince and Bruce and everybody didn't like Triple H's version of NXT, because they want to do something so specific and have a certain kind of system. And you start looking at the main roster, and you can see where that falls apart if you have a guy like Killer Cross who didn't fit in either place. So I would say if you've not checked it out since the debut episode, go watch a week or two of NXT 2.0. You don't have to watch every match. Go watch it, and the entirety of WWE's business model starts coming together. These releases from last week start making a hell of a lot more sense than they maybe did previously.
Well, lastly here, talking about WWE, over the weekend on Twitter, and a very traditional style, WWE just announced their Survivor Series teams. Now, Xavier Woods, Ricochet, I know have come out and been like, hey, it would have been cool maybe do qualifying matches. I think Xavier Woods even asked what's at stake, right? Really kind of pushing the writers to think here. So the men, let's see, we're going to have Seth. This is for Raw. Team Raw, Seth Rollins, Balor, Owens, Mysterio, and Dominic Mysterio. And then Team SmackDown, the men will be McIntyre, Hardy, King Woods, Sami Zayn, and Baron Corbin. Over on the women's side, Team Raw is going to be Bianca Belair, Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan, Carmella, and Queen Zelina. And over on Team SmackDown, Shayna Baszler, Sasha Banks, Shotzi, Natalya, and Aaliyah. Any thoughts at all on the rollout, on the teams, anything?
This is going to go back to my previous comment about NXT 2.0. And I'm not, listen, let me just clarify. I'm not saying I'm a huge fan of the way WWE does business or their creative style, but this company is trying to promote an image and a brand and a lifestyle feeling, right? That you don't have to watch it every week. I almost feel like sometimes they don't want people to watch their TV every week. They want you to go follow them on YouTube and social media, because to the point that was made about creative, just rolling this out on Twitter, you complain about having hours of TV to fill on Raw, on SmackDown, on NXT. This is a great way to give people a reason to do it. Instead, if you watch SmackDown, it was barely mentioned, and there was a whole other storyline going on. And again, I think this company has just found itself in a place where it is a promotional machine for the brand more than it is a creative booking machine for storylines. And that's why you do this in social media. Oh, I missed the announcement. It was on Twitter. I need to go follow them on Twitter in the future, right? So I think it was, from my opinion, mishandled, because you lost creative opportunities here. You left money on the table, but from WWE's perspective, they got social media buzz off of it, right? So no big opinions on the teams, but because I don't give a shit, because it's Survivor Series and it doesn't matter. Sorry, great wrestlers involved. From a storyline perspective, from a fan perspective, it does not matter.
All right. Well, Michael, thank you for joining me at the top of the show to talk all the news of the day. Thank you to Ethan Kramer for going and getting those great interviews with Jacob Fatu and EJ and Duca. And spread this around. Leave nice iTunes reviews, all that great stuff. Let's dive into the mailbag at Wink Daily, WINC Daily. That's the account to follow. If you want to go vote in our daily polls. Today's poll question: who is the best male babyface in pro wrestling at the moment? I listed Big E, Adam Page, Braun Breaker, or somebody else. A little over 420 votes. 48.1% Adam Page, 36.6 Big E, 7.8 Braun Breaker, and 7.5 for somebody else. For your money, who's the best babyface of pro wrestling right now, Michael?
Oh, I almost want to be a contrarian and say Roman Reigns, because I see fans flocking to him now and wearing his shirts, right? Even though I know he's not a babyface. Adam Page, this dude has had a long-term story. They're going to finally capitalize it and give him the belt, and I think the fans are just hungry for this. But I love what Big E's doing as well. I don't want to discount that, because Big E is just so likable, but the story right now makes Adam Page feel like the bigger babyface deal.
I think there's a good case that can be made for Big E, just because I think that he is he getting more exposure, right? I'm not seeing Adam Page out at college football games, and I know that Adam Page isn't I know he's got his kid, right? He took time off. He's kind of back right now, and I know he's trying to do family time and stuff, but Big E, every other day or every day to every other day, I'm getting some awesome story about him or somebody around him or a former champion like Ron Simmons or R-Truth. It's talking about how much it means to see two black men hand off that title and, carry that title, and that the impact that has on kids that are feeling really seen, I think, for the first time in the community. I get the argument for both. I'm just kind of playing devil's advocate for Big E, because I think you made a good case for Adam Page. But I could see the argument for Big E. I kind of think I even maybe sold myself on Big E.
Yeah, that's a pretty good. You made this. Maybe you're going to have this poll later in the week, and I shouldn't ask this, but who's the best female babyface in pro wrestling at the moment?
That's a good question. And maybe, you know what? Maybe I'll save it for next Monday. Maybe we'll do it coming out of the show.
I think it's a tougher question because of the way women have been booked in both companies right now. But I like the argument for Big E here, Nick. And again, there is some purpose behind the representation there that I do think is really powerful and really cool. And I'm glad to see WWE embracing that right now.
All right, everybody. Well, that's it for today. Thank you all so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to be joined by EJ Cameron from Second City, Chicago. We may have an interview tomorrow. We may not. That's the thing now, Michael. We don't do interviews like every day now because my job makes it very hard for me to do 5 interviews a week. So we may or may not have one tomorrow. I think I might sit on it till Wednesday because we got a really good one I'm doing tomorrow. At tomorrow afternoon. So anyway, just come on back. If you like this show, support the wrestling or sportwrestling.com on all your socials. And of course, support the Wrestling podcast, which goes live at night after the big shows, including tonight after Monday Night Raw. Michael, what do you want to put over here before we wrap up the show today?
I've enjoyed the conversation. Love this. Love these evening fireside chats. Give me a shout out on Twitter. I am at The Real Wiseman. Thank you all for the follows.
Yes, everybody. And I'm at Nick_Hausman over on Twitter. Thank you for tuning in. I will talk to you tomorrow. And remember, if you winked, you didn't miss it.